Hello and welcome back to Teacher Summer Camp. It's our last session today. We're so excited to have at least one person joining us live, but I know, as I keep saying, I know I've heard from so many of you who are not able to join live for lots of reasons. That's totally fine. We love having you live because it gives us a chance to talk with you. And I will make this offer out to everybody, even if you're behind or what, it doesn't really matter. The whole point about this is kind of make connections and carry this work forward. So as you proceed, even after camp, if there's something that we can help you or your team with, or you were thinking about bringing impactful or social good innovation, or frankly any of the professional learning work or other work that the Jacobs Institute does, we'd be happy to help you. So just reach out to either Alina or me. You should have our emails many times because I always send them to, Alina and I BCC you, all the participants in camps. So we'd love to hear from you and try to help you out as best we can. And I'm going to share my screen. And Suji, just keep it down today.
Imani, can I add in? I would also encourage everyone to use the PACO community as well to communicate. If you have any questions or you would like to share ideas, we're always open to that, open to your feedback.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we'll jump right in. I'm just curious. I know, Suji, I'm putting you in the hot seat. I know you've been swamped with other things and travel and that kind of thing. Any thoughts about the project that you've been working on, or just sort of like how have things been going for you, even if you're, I know, maybe a little behind, or how have things been going? Any thoughts you might have about PACFul or this work, or where you think this could go?
Yeah, I'm actually really excited. I haven't been doing the homework, but the assignments have really been provoking me to rearrange the project in ways that I had not contemplated before. So the activities themselves are great, and I can see myself using them with the students, but also just the way that the project is kind of guided has given me really some good structure for the project that I'm working on. So even though I haven't been doing the actual homework, you did put me on the hot seat. I can very easily imagine how I'm going to build this project now, or I should say I'm much closer than I was when I first started.
Fantastic. Hi, Jennifer. Welcome. I know you've just joined us, which is fantastic. We are a small group, so we would love to have you. I mean, honestly, I would love to hear. You're just kind of jumping in. If you don't feel comfortable, it's okay. But we'd love to sort of hear how things are going for you. Any thoughts you might have, any ways that you might have to help, whether it's about the week 3 activity or just frankly anything that you've seen to date, anything that's sort of like inspiring you or you're thinking about.
So yes, I am, like many teachers, doing about 10 million things this summer rather than chill, but I am chilling. That's actually scheduled. I live in Hawaii, and so that's pretty easy to do. Sorry. And so this is on my plate, and it's like, oh, a couple times I've had other conflicts and haven't been able to join live. But what I'm really looking forward to is this is like the synthesis of all the other things I've been working on, which is advanced ed tech. And I'm right now in a Hawaii-based culture education class, learning all about the frameworks and the pedagogy for a really culturally responsive curriculum and way of teaching. And that's happening in Hawaii all over the place, mostly in our charter schools. I'm an independent prep school. And we, for a long time, there was sort of like, well, there's the Howley education system, kids that are, traditional prep school type program. And then there's the public system. And, the Renaissance of Hawaii and the 70s and 80s have really brought forward this traditional methods integrated with modern technology. So we have Mauna Kea, we have, science and technology and all these amazing things happening. COVID has brought us the idea that, wow, we can't be tourism based over here. We need to have all these other things happening. So much of this is flowing into education. And my goal is to bring that traditional and indigenous awareness and the social justice perspective to my students who may or may not have a lot of experience with that. Some are like 5 generations, 6 generations Hawaii. Others are, they got here 10 minutes ago during COVID and decided to stay. So a lot going on in brewing. And then really this tying into the UN sustainability goals has been something I've done in the past when I taught on the mainland. So, and design thinking is just the way I roll. Before I knew that that's what we were calling it, that's what I was doing. So really looking forward to this as a framework to really give the students a way to ground in that think globally, act locally, and also give them the tools to really collaborate. I saw last year with my students, you know, it was COVID, which was weird. We were in person, but you know that, can we do this partner work? Can we not? All of those things that were strange about last year. And just a dynamic where kids were like, I have a partner, I'm gonna work with myself. And that was a mentality that, you know, a 5th to 6th grade transition, they're not quite mature into what that means, or they've had experiences where somebody else just steamrolls them. So a lot of that kind of building in the classroom management and that just the underlying, that would call them the soft skills, you know, really in a way that is deliberate and engaged in the class activities and not in the class goals, rather than just like, oh, we did that intro first 6 weeks thing and then we moved to this other thing and, you know, we did a little project here. Really want to roll it into more more impactful, and that's how I came across Impactful. And it just kind of, it's like you guys have put together like the reading list and all of the things that I've been gathering throughout my career. And I'm so excited to kind of dig in and rewatch the last 3 weeks and catch up with everything so that we can be prepared. We actually start school too. Teachers go back between July 26th and August 1st. So summer kind of
It's
comes to a
almost,
close.
I know that happens in, I've done a lot of work with other states. I know in Arizona, they always go back really early too. So.
Yeah. So that's kind of my summer in a nutshell. And that after this, I get to go do a couple things and go swim at the beach.
Well, that's fantastic. And I know you came in just a couple minutes late. I will make the offer to you, as I did to everyone else, as you progress and you're thinking about this work, whether you're doing it, our activities from summer camp, or you're thinking about how to frame this, leverage this in your classrooms and stuff like that, please feel free to reach out to either Alina or me. We're happy to help you think about bringing this into your classroom or you know, whatever that might look like. We're ultimately always looking for additional, you know, partners who are thinking about taking this work further, and that's what we're here for. And I will say, it's one of the things you said resonated really well with some of our thinking, which is obviously we're trying to fundamentally like improve the rate of innovation in America by helping teenagers feel like they have those skills and to help develop them. But also that whole, you know, global awareness and where we fit and other people in the world, that's really influenced a lot of our thinking. And some of the work that we're just starting to, we put in a grant last year that we didn't get the grant, but we're continuing the work and potential collaboration with different other countries where we might be able to do like virtual exchange programs. And we're thinking about how that works with Pacful, and to have teams who might be at 2 different countries maybe working on a similar problem and talking about how, you know, whatever their problem that they've identified, homelessness might work differently in Bogota than it might work in San Diego or in Honolulu or wherever people might be. And just thinking about really connecting those global, I think there's a lot of what we hear from different educators who are thinking differently about their approaches to education and then the skills they're trying to teach, is that these types of activities and work can fit in really well with that sort of longer term outcomes.
And if you can imagine just the cultural differences between where I am on Big Island where I am on Big Island and the other side of Big Island, cultural differences, practitioner differences, language differences, the Hawaiian language, and Oahu, you know, and I say it as a haole, but you know, it's amazing. It's like you can be just 200 miles away from someone and you know, everybody assumes that we're, you know, the melting pot, or there's a sameness, and that, you know, really teasing out what it is that is the same and what is different, those universalities, but then how does that manifest? And I think that's something that's been really hard implementing program across the state or across, our country is, oh, okay, well, that's all great, but it won't work for my little segment of the population, or, and really breaking down some of those barriers in a way that isn't a hot button, like, solving a problem then and doing it locally. Yeah, I can definitely talk to you too a little further offline about a program that that Punahou has done, a global educator conference they've done for years. Similar idea. They come in for a intensive program, bring all these schools together, and then the kids are going back to their community to present what they workshopped and created. And that was, so I have information, I've attended that. So yeah, it's great. The networking is awesome because, again, sometimes you feel like you're literally on an island, and I'm a one person show in terms of what I do in the school for middle school and upper school. But we want to build that. And we're coming from a place where our head just came here from Nueva Day, from San Fran, and the guru center of a lot of this thinking differently about school. So we're trying to not step on too many toes and change it all in 1 year, but the motivation is there, and the motivation is there from the families saying we want our kids to have a different way of going through school than what we had.
Fantastic.
Wonderful.
All right, we will.
All right, well, we are excited today to talk about the final phase, which is the pitch phase. And this is, it's a really fun opportunity for students to, really be able to sell their ideas. And it's just an excellent time for them to use those persuasive strategies and storytelling conventions to really convince their audience that their solution can really make a difference for this world. And the goal in this phase is for students to really set the stage, to build suspense and reveal their solution as the hero that solves the problem. And so, of course, they're learning design thinking skills, but this is an opportunity for them to work on their communication skills, and persuasive skills as well. So very important. And
I would even offer to say, I think that students are all learning when they're doing this work, but you can definitely tell the difference between the students who really are have stepped up their game in terms of the pitch, even if their work. It's sort of interesting to see those distinctions.
It's very true. And the PACO activities for the pitch phase are divided into two categories: craft it and share it. And so we'll take a closer look at those individual activities. So we'll start with the craft your story arc. And I like to say, just as a disclaimer, we encourage teachers to at least have their students do 3 activities, between 3 to 5. However, just depending upon your frequency of meeting with your students and length of time that you spend with them, it is up to your discretion. But there are some really key important activities within this phase that I'll highlight as we go throughout them. So with the story arc, students are given an outline which helps them to shape and create their story. And with this, which is very important, the students get a chance to establish credibility, emotion, and logic, or also known as ethos, pathos, and logos, those persuasive strategies. And this is a nice introduction or just reaffirming those strategies there for them. In activities 2, craft your story, solution, slogan, this helps the students to creatively come up with a catchy slogan that represents their solution and has emotional appeal. I think we've all, as teachers, we're used to doing the commercial, like create your own commercial activities. So this is kind of similar in the fact that they come up with their slogan, which is always fun. And then in activity 3, solution name, students are allowed to, collaborate with each other to create a catchy name for their solution, keeping in mind the creative techniques, such as incorporating other languages into their titles, merging words together, or coming up with a creative spelling, such as dropping off vowels to words, which is very, it just makes it even more fun for students. Like, don't come up with a boring name, come up with something fun and interesting. And we've seen quite a bit, I think Monty can agree, we've seen some really creative titles, even if you go to our PACO page that showcases our Teen Innovation Challenge. You can see like all the list of the names and even the creative team names that the students have come up with. So the next couple of activities are the crafted activities. And within this set here, you have something that's really important, and it's called the competitor matrix. And this allows students to research similar products that are currently on the market and compare it with their own. Sometimes we have those bright ideas like, oh, I know what we can do, such and such. And then you go to Google and you see it like, oh, that already exists. So within this activity, and it's okay if students have similar ideas or if they have an idea, but they can just find a way to really make it their own. But the grid matrix helps students to visually see, as you can see here on the screen, how their product is similar and how the features differ from other ones. In activity 5, crafted value proposition, this calls for students to identify their primary target audience, to list features versus benefits, as you can see on the screen, and then using the template provided in PACO, create a compelling value proposition, which basically identifies how their solution is unique. Which is very important. And we know, of course, and I just wanted to circle back to the audience. This is very important because by identifying who their audience is, this will help them to really understand like the user experience. And I think it's important as they get feedback, as they develop their solution, that they're actually getting it from that target audience, not just, others, anybody. Of course, it's always good to hear from a variety of people, but you definitely want to get feedback from the primary users of it.
And I will offer, you mentioned one thing about the competitor matrix, and Aline and I were just talking about this in more detail yesterday because we were reevaluating some elements of the pitch rubric, which we'll get to, and just thinking about some of the pitches and stuff that we got from student teams. And that competitor matrix really was an element that shined through. Those teams who, it's kind of this combination of what else is out there in the market and how feasible is our idea. And frankly, and I would encourage you guys as you're going through this, please feel free to share any feedback or suggestions you might have about the curriculum or concepts with us. This is something that we're looking at and saying, well, there were a few that were really great, but they might not have been truly feasible in the sense that they might be duplicative of something on the market. Where's the best place to put that in the, it's really important to compare what you're doing to what other people are doing, just to make sure that it's not already done. And even for students, it doesn't always have to be perfectly unique for the learning to happen. But if you are trying to build a solution, a product or a service that can actually, be practical and move in that direction of helping to improve the world, there is that element of, is it a niche? Does it really solve a unique problem that hasn't been solved in other ways? So,
good point. And then we have our share it activities. And I think both of these are really key for your students. And I would definitely recommend having them go through both of these activities. But starting with the create your presentation, this activity provides tips and pointers to your students that help them to create an effective slide deck. It even provides, which I think is like the best part, initial pitch decks for leading companies like Facebook and Airbnb. Like students can actually view the actual slide decks that were used in their early stages and to see how those companies have grown to now, let students know like, hey, it just starts with an idea and you can see how it builds from there. And then the final activity is the pitch event, where the students, where they're introduced and to helpful reminders and to like the pitch rubric and really the moments leading up to the pitch itself. So it really helps them to prepare. And so with the PACO rubric, which is very detailed, that helps students to it really provides a guideline for students to follow. And if they make sure that they check off and reach all of those requirements, then most likely they'll have a really successful project. Let's see, Monty has pulled up the pitch rubric on the screen.
Yeah, I just thought it would be worth just showing you quickly. This is a part of the pitch rubric that exists in the curriculum that Lena was just talking about. There's a lot of elements here, and again, we're maybe tweaking a few things here, but this is really out there to help student teams really kind of bring the whole package together. And this is the rubric that not only do we provide in the curriculum for you to consider using in your classroom for pitch events, it's also the one that we use for our annual Teen Innovation Challenge and how we ultimately evaluated the teams on that work. And this is a part of the curriculum and available to everybody.
I was just looking at a pitch rubric that I had created for an event I did with almost 200 middle schoolers at the International School of Manila on June 7th. And I'm like, oh gosh, why didn't I have this back in June 7th? But
well, you may have some elements
now
of yours that would be great for us to look at.
Oh, can I could share my screen. Is that possible?
I don't think you can share today.
I'll send it to you.
That'd be
guys.
awesome.
Yeah.
That would be fantastic.
It's very basic compared to this one, but I'm glad to have this one now because it's very thorough.
It's an evolution, just like everything. And frankly, I think that's an important message for everyone in all this type of work is that, you know, you're always iterating toward, you know, better. So
yeah, this is great.
Thank you.
Speaking a little bit more about the pitch event, so Lena mentioned this, we in the curriculum, and so for educators who are using this on their own, and frankly, even in our innovation challenge, we always encourage everyone to have a local pitch event. This gives an opportunity for student teams to not only get to witness and experience what other people are doing, it gives them a stage for those of them who are doing the presenting. It also gives everyone an opportunity to use that pitch rubric and make those evaluations, and frankly, to give that feedback loop. And so we really think that's an important part of that, of this overall process. So we have the pitch rubric as a guide. We ultimately would ask you and your students, once everything is done, to submit, you know, track their pitches and put them into PACO for your evaluation when you come to, you know, approving or returning the phase. And the pitch events can be handled in multiple different ways, as we've learned. So some people do live pitch events, and those may be live virtual now where they can record them. And frankly, there's an advantage to that, because if you're doing a live event where everybody's together but they're in Zoom and you record it, then you frankly have a copy of the recorded pitches already. They might need to be broken up, but you have them. Other people and other student teams, they will just do their own pitches on their own. So, and frankly, sometimes this happens multiple times where the student team will work on their pitch and submit a draft of their pitch to their teacher, and then they might work on it and do it again, but those would be recorded and then those get submitted. Other people obviously can do them live in the physical classroom, doing the same thing, you know, and you may or may not have the benefit of recording them in that case, but you would certainly have the benefit of getting through the experience, and no wrong way to do this. We just encourage those types of pitch events. We think that's an important part of the process. And then the last thing, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
The last thing I would mention, the privacy guidelines, particularly for recorded pitches. There's a little overlap with some of our work with the annual challenge, which is thinking about what privacy rules are in place, especially if you're submitting pitches and you're either going to post them on your school's YouTube channel or make them available to other people. That sharing component is something that we think is really important. Getting your word out there and getting it shared out there, whether it's social media or your, like I said, your school's website, or frankly, even, you know, students may have their own YouTube channels or other places like that. But you want to consider obviously what the rules of privacy rules and student privacy, you know, making sure that that's taken into consideration and everyone has the proper stuff in place in order so we don't have any problems.
I was going to add on about the pitch event that, one thing that really added on to the experience back when I used to do pitches or Shark Tank pitches when I was a middle school teacher, it was an opportunity for me to bring in like community people, such as like business representatives, to come and judge the students. And so it was really helpful for students to hear from outsiders, other than myself, and to get their expertise and feedback on their projects as well. So I think it's a nice way, although the work that they're doing is already connecting them to the community, whether their local community or the community at large, but it's also an opportunity to actually bring in some experts so that they could provide their feedback as well. And the students, they definitely take the project seriously, but I think they really step up their game when they know, oh, we have outsiders coming in to see us.
If I could add to that, for the event that I did in June, we actually, what we did was we partnered groups of students, about 24 or 5 students, with a local organization, and they got to interview the organization and find out more about them. And then we did kind of a semifinals. So they broke into 3 different groups of 8, or approximately 8. And they created their pitches. And from those 3 groups, we chose one to be the final representative. And then for the final pitch, at the end of the day, the community representative, the partner representative, was watching the pitch. So that really motivated the students to kind of do their best, because they're like, they know that the person for whom they're representing is there. And so it really gave them a lot of motivation to up their game a bit.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Thank you for sharing. So last but not least, for those still playing along, I'm not judging, Suji, not much, no kidding. We are, if those are, we would ask those of you in camp, if you're still playing along, and this is really important, I think, for those of you, there are a few people who may be trying to get graduate extension credit, and so the activities are important for that piece of it. But if you do the activities, we'd ask you to complete one of the pitch activities and submit it to us. In this case, we might encourage you to do a quick little video, even if it's the only activity you do. Again, there's no wrong way to kind of approach this, and that's true with students too. If you get to the end and all students do is record a quick video as their pitch, it may not be the most polished or complete, but it is great, right? Those are all parts of the process, and there's no wrong way. There's always more that can be done later, and we firmly believe in the whole nonlinear approach to this type of work and this type of learning. And so they might start with the pitch, and then later you might encourage them to go back and do a slogan or some other pieces that could improve their future pitches or future work. But that is the official activity for this week for summer camp, which shouldn't be a huge surprise to anybody. And with that, that's actually the end of our slides. We are happy to talk things through or do what we can to help you further, or let you go have a rest of your evening, in your case, Suji, and afternoon in yours, Jennifer. No pressure. I'm going to go ahead and stop. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording for those playing at home.